Welcome back, guys, to Live Bold and Boss Up. Thank you for joining in this week. This week, we have our D-Rod in the house to help us with sharing information and advice on how to scale a business. D-Rod, also known as Dan Rodriguez, he's our president of NextPath and our executive advisor. Thank you for coming back on the show.
Oh, thanks so much. It's always great to spend time with the two of you, as much time as I already spend with you guys at work every day. But
get rid of us.
Yes, always honored to be on the show.
So today we thought it would be good to talk about, since we do kind of have a large network of entrepreneurs and business professionals, on how to scale a business. And we felt like you would be the perfect person to talk about this since you've done it.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I've been blessed in my life to have been involved with a company, Veredus, that me and several other folks started together back in 2000, and we were able to grow that over a 14-year period into a rather large enterprise and get a great exit in 2014. And I had a great partnership, so that was a great first step is picking your right partners. And I think we've done that here at NextPath as well with Ashley and Stephanie.
Thank you.
Yeah, real happy. But I guess the first thing that, I kind of jotted down some notes is, when you start your business, you really don't know what you want to be, or at least a lot of folks don't, or at least I didn't anyway. And we started going. We were a staffing business. We started making some placements. We had a good business after we got past 9/11. We're probably 2 or 3 years into it. And we were kind of at an inflection point where you have to decide, hey, do I just want to continue along the current path and everybody makes a nice living and we make, good money and it's, a good little lifestyle kind of thing? Or do we really commit to growing it? And when you're committing to growing it, really what you're saying that you're either going to take some of your capital that you're earning now and invest it in other people and systems and software and projects and so forth so that you can grow, or you're really talking about bringing on outside capital. And for us, what we decided at the time is that we wanted to internally fund our growth. We committed to it, and we began to take, some of the profits that have been going out to the partnership and reinvesting it into the business. And that's a big decision that everyone has to make.
So quick question, is there a difference between scaling and growing?
Yeah, I think there is. I think initially when you start your business, when we were at Veredus anyway, we had one location and then very quickly two that were both, growing, and we were doing really well. And those were kind of our hubs of expertise where we made the majority of our revenue at. And then we quickly found out that in order to be valuable at the time to anyone, we had to have multiple locations. And that's where the kind of the scalability aspect of it comes in, is can you take the great thing that you built in Tampa and the great thing that you built in Orlando, and can you replicate, those business models and scale them to other markets? Because back in those days in the staffing world, you had to be in a market, bricks and mortar, to really be able to be successful. So I think the difference is if we would have been a lifestyle business and made the decision to continue to do that, we probably would have just had a Tampa and Orlando office back in the, mid 2000s. But when we decided that we wanted to actually build something that had value that we wanted to sell, everyone out in the private equity world and in the venture capital world told us that we needed to have locations all over the country. And that's where the scaling part comes in, is can you replicate that great thing that you have in Tampa and Orlando in other markets around the country?
That's interesting. Yeah. Do you think because of last year, because of COVID, 2020, everything that happened, do you think investors would say something differently in today's small businesses?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I think, just our business, the staffing business, we see has changed incredibly. It went from really, you had to have bricks and mortar in as many markets as possible. If you were a international company, it was as many countries as possible. And now, really the movement in the staffing world is towards, big delivery centers. We know that here at NextPath, Ashley, Steph, you guys have clients all over the country. They really don't care that we sit here in Tampa.
Right.
We have no plans or aspirations to go open other markets and other places because we don't really need to. We have plenty of business all over the country just sitting right here in Tampa. I think it was headed in that direction anyway, but like COVID definitely sped it up. So I think the markets now look at things very differently in terms of, where you're physically located in terms of, your business.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I feel like even before COVID, some of our best clients or like the best relationships we had with our clients were not in state, and we've never met them in person. So maybe last year's definitely accelerated that. Hopefully we won't need to, or hopefully many small businesses won't need to put those brick and mortars in now. Maybe it's just okay to have, one or two and still grow and scale.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think if you take, I've been fortunate to work with Stephanie for, 10 years now. If you look at her old account base, Healthy Systems and Nielsen and some of the other accounts, these were big, large accounts that she had to be out at like once a week, walking the halls, meeting managers, taking managers to lunch and things like that. And now if we look at our client base, like you said, Ash, some of our best clients, we've never met them in person. We've been on dozens of Zoom calls with them. Mm-hmm. We know lots of things about them. We have relationships with them, but it's not the same as in just, 18 months ago when it was so important to be out in front of your client. And I think that's just not just in staffing, we staff sales verticals, and we see the same thing going on with companies that sell, SaaS products or software or technology services or cyber or whatever. Their salespeople are not getting on planes all the time like they used to. And they're all doing, Zoom calls and Teams calls and everything else. And there's not as much face-to-face time as there used to be just a very short time ago.
Yeah, I feel like that's changing a lot. So once a company decides how they want to scale or grow, then what's kind of the next step in scaling?
Yeah, what we had to do at Veredus, we had to look at our partnership and see, hey, who's good at once or who's good at what, excuse me. We had 4, primary partners in the organization. Each of us had different skill sets. And, when we were small, we kind of had a very, collaborative leadership style. And sometimes that got in the way of making the right decisions. So we had to kind of figure out what everybody's lane was. And then we needed to figure out with, where we wanted to go, what were we missing? And in terms of what we were missing, what kind of people did we need to bring in, skill sets and so forth, to make sure that we had all of the skills that we needed to be a successful company. So a great example of us at Veredus, when we started, there were 4 of us. None of us had any type of financial experience. So one of our very early on hires was we had to go out and hire somebody who knew something about financials.
Yeah, I think that's important, having a team in place or evaluating, who's good at what are people's strengths and build it on that.
What do you think are a few main pillars that you feel like the founders or maybe those top people need to fill in? Like, what are some of the, I guess, main areas that you need expertise in when you're starting a business, or when you're maybe not starting a business, when you're scaling?
Yeah, I think, again, there needs to be a clear leader, who's the person that's in charge of the organization and is going to be the final, say on decisions that maybe not everyone agrees on. And then I think secondarily, all of your back office functions, you really need to have a strong person there that is really, in our case, needed to be part of the partnership so that we all felt comfortable that the company's finances and all the back office operations were in great hands. And we were, very successful in having a person that could do that for us. And then next, in the recruiting business, delivery is so important. Being able to find the right candidates and bring them to market. So we assigned one of our partners to really be the delivery champion. And that was Vicki Atkins, who we're very fortunate. Shout out to Vicki, who's joined us here at NextPath now and performs really the same function that she did at Veredus, which is to orchestrate, coach, train, and make sure that our delivery teams are on point. So again, those are all really important functions. You have to have somebody in there that, financially knows what they're doing. We got ourselves in trouble so many times early on with, not paying taxes properly in certain states and, not having the proper insurance coverages for certain accounts. And there's just all kinds of things when you start to grow and scale and move into different geographic areas, different states, that you really need, really strong, financial and operational expertise back there to make sure that you don't get yourself in a jam.
Yeah, no, for sure. I feel like, we've been doing that here at NextPath, trying to get the right people in place so we can scale and grow. And, I think that's important, having that core foundation in order to even start scaling. So once you have a kick-ass team in place, what's next?
Yeah. The next thing is, like we were talking about before, is being able to take the great thing that you build and take it to other markets. How do you do that? Back then, that was really the challenge. I think now it's, I don't think there's a whole lot of companies out there that are just like one trick ponies. They have, different verticals and, or products or services that they provide in the marketplace. And I think, you want to be able to deliver them all with the same, consistency so that the customer knows what to expect. They know the level of service that they're going to get when they deal with NextPath or company ABC. So to be able to standardize that and package it and get it out into a different vertical or a different geographic market, however you're doing it is really a trick. So it's all about, standardized processes. I don't know that we ever got that 100% correct in the old company because we had 14 or 15 offices, and it seemed like at any given time I had, 6 or 7 that were really humming and maybe 3 or 4 that were doing okay, and maybe, 1 or 2 that we just couldn't get over the hump. So, so that's really a tough thing. And I think that what we always tried to do is export the culture. So, we have a culture now. We have 30 people in the company. We feel like they're all keepers. Everyone's a good person. We love our culture. So I think that as we start to grow into other areas and more verticalize our business here at NextPath, we want to use our internal culture to, or internal people to make sure that we can maintain that culture that we have now.
I feel like as you grow, that probably gets harder and harder to keep that standardized process and that culture and everything the same, because then it kind of gets diluted.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think, again, going back to the example I gave, we had, 14 or 15 offices, and in some offices, the offices were far flung, and it was very difficult as you got larger to really, to know everybody. And, one of the things that I really enjoyed about, growing Veredus and being the CEO there was, meeting people, getting to see them, have families, build houses, blossom in their career and in their, personal lives. I thought that was really cool. And that helps, build connectivity and culture when you're of a small enough size that your, leaders can actually engage with the folks that work in the company. And the bigger that we got, the harder that became. And so that tight culture, that stickiness that you create kind of deteriorates a little bit as you get larger. And I think, we've all seen that in large organizations where, folks tell us in the staffing business that they feel like they're just a number and they don't really feel like they're really connected to the organization. I personally, not to digress, but I think that's one of the blowbacks we're going to see from everyone working from home here during COVID is I think there's going to be a point in time that folks are going to they're going to want to come back in the office. They're going to want to feel like they're a part of something. They're going to want to find ways to be sticky and feel relevant to the organization. And that may not be back for a couple of years, but I think at some point there's going to be some middle ground that occurs between, having folks in the office and having folks remote.
Yeah, I can see that. I feel like the people we talk to already are kind of stirring, getting a little stir crazy.
Yeah. No, I think we see two kinds of people. We see, well, not just two kinds, but, there's two very different parameters. There's folks that want to be in the office every day and they want to be around people for whatever reason. Maybe they just want to get out of the house. And then there's other folks that COVID is winding down now and they don't want to go back to the office. They don't want to go in. And, it's an interesting time. It'll be interesting to see how it takes shape, how the workforce takes shape over the next couple of 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I've seen you do a lot, like starting NextPath. And I feel like we didn't do as much of it in the old co because we were so big, but building collaborations like with either companies where you can help each other out and help each other scale and grow is something that you're really good at. And you've kind of, helped us, get involved and do that as well. But I think that's another point is building collaborations and working with other people where you can work together and help each other grow.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that, Steph. I mean, you guys, they never say nice things to me in the office on a daily basis. So whenever I get a compliment, I'm so happy. But I do believe in building like win-win relationships. If someone's a customer, then we need to try to help them too. And how can you help a customer? Well, you introduce them to another customer because they don't, sell the same services as we do. So maybe we can make an introduction. I believe in alliances going out. And I know that Steph Ash are involved and Eugenia as well, our other partner, and James and Orlando are very involved in all different things in the community, the EDC, Florida Funders, the WAVE, Temp Connection, various other just meetup and business groups where we all try to help each other. And the thing that we all have in common is that we're all trying to be successful. And if we can, help each other be successful, then that's great. So I think all, relationships should be win-win. And so I always try to do that. I always try to keep that in mind when I take a meeting with someone.
That's it. I think that's a great point because how are you supposed to scale and grow your business if you're not putting that good like juju out there, right? If you're not helping someone else out and really, trying to add value everywhere you are, is it going to come back to you if you're not doing that?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I just feel like that's just good all around karma, right?
I think all three of us could probably say, and I've been doing this for a long time, but I've probably put more people to work and not getting paid for it, just pointing them in the right direction or knowing about an opening and doing an introduction or taking a new college graduate and pointing them to a company that hires new college graduates. I mean, we do that all the time. And that, that's paying it forward and it creates win-wins because when you help people like that, they remember that 3 or 4 or 5 years down the road in their career when they're either looking for a new opportunity or looking to hire people. So that's just an example of a win-win type of relationship that I think everyone needs to keep in mind when you're out there engaging in the business community.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have collaborations, you have standardized processes, anything else that you recommend in steps for scaling?
Yeah, I think that, you need to try to maintain focus. A lot of times, you see other, niche businesses or other, verticals that people are making money in. And the temptation is, hey, let's go over there and let's try to get some of that. And, the reality is that vertical exists because there's already players there who know that space really well, and are really good at it. And that's why in staffing it's so hard to do a startup, because you have people like us that have been doing it a very long time. We're very established in the market. And if you're a person that parachutes in from, Philadelphia, and you're trying to start, a staffing business in Tampa, you're competing against, folks like us who've been doing this for a long time, know a lot of people in the marketplace and have brand. So I think it's, to a certain extent, you have to stay focused on really what you're good at and what your core competency is. And again, using the example of back at Veredus, sometimes, we would take people and we would drop them into marketplaces, and we would run into folks. I'm remembering Minnesota, Minneapolis, never could get over the hump in Minneapolis. And it was just because it was a market where, there were very well-known players there, very established players. And we could just never get the right combination of folks in there to give us the level of success that we had in a lot of our other markets.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point. I think a lot of companies try to maybe do too much instead of just sticking what they're good at, that one thing. And then that's whenever you kind of dilute what your specialties are. Right.
Yeah. And then just the last one, I think, is in terms of building and scaling a company is, you always have to know what your strengths are, and you need to be able to articulate that, to a client. No matter what business you're in, there's some competition out there, and you have to be able to articulate how you're different. And I think, the message that we try to, articulate to our clients here is that we play in the small to mid-market space. If we're working with a candidate, we can generally tell that candidate that we know a C-level representative in that organization very well. And so we're in a really good position to represent you. And I think that we can go to our clients, we can go to those C-level clients, and we can tell them that, hey, we're focused on the small to mid-market. This is where we play. So we're not spending all of our time trying to service the large MSP and VMS organizations out there that scorecard their staffing vendors and things like that. We are, the company for the small to mid-market, for the growth companies. And I think we do a really good job of articulating that to our candidates and our clients. And I think that's why, we've had a really good, successful almost 3 years now.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And I feel like you should always think back to, why did you start the company in the first place? Like, what are you good at? What's your passion? And, always come back to that point. What's your strengths, passion, and why did you start in the first place?
Exactly. That's what comes out of me every time I share. When someone asks me like, hey, what makes NextPath different, or what are you doing differently, or why are you doing what you do? That's kind of just what comes from the heart, right?
No, I think, we cover a lot of ground here. And I think the one thing that overlies, all of this in building a great company is you cannot build a great company unless you have a great culture, and culture is people. And I truly believe that all great companies have great people that made those companies. There are great leaders, but those leaders wouldn't be great without having great people that that elected to join them and spend their time and effort in helping build that company. And we as leaders and as entrepreneurs, owe it to them to again have a place in the company, feel valued, and have their niche. And I think we've done a very, very good job of that at NextPath. I know we did a really good job of it at Veredus. And I think that is really the key thing that overlies everything when it comes to, growth and scaling, is just having a great culture.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for all of this wisdom, right? Because I feel like, even I sometimes wonder, like, hey, I still want to pick your brain all the time. And there's weeks where I'm like, let's get back on track and let me pick Dan's brain again. And so hopefully everyone really appreciates the, just all of the pointers that you gave.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. And I would also say enjoy the journey of scaling. Mm-hmm. Try not to do it too quickly, because I feel like that could hurt you too. So,
right.
Like, really soak it all in, build that culture, enjoy it, enjoy the journey, enjoy the whole process.
Right. Don't be in a rush to be the biggest. Thank you, sponsors, and thank you, NextPath career partners. We really appreciate you guys. All you listeners out there, we want to know what you want to hear. So please email us, liveboldandbossup@gmail.com, to tell us what you want to hear. We'll get the experts in here and tell it to you. Or if you have any questions, previous podcasts, maybe something wasn't clear and you want us to clarify it, let us know. We're here for you. We got you. And until next time, live bold and boss up.